I have made a prediction, and I think that this is only going to make it go more quickly. That there's this thing called social impact theory, where basically society goes in a bunch of cycles. And we've been in our current cycle for a very long time. And I think we're going to come out of this cycle and we're going to go more into the cycle where people were individual tradesmen, blacksmiths, whatever it might have been. But I think the cycle we're going into, you're going to have more, instead of entrepreneurs, individual entrepreneurs who start selling their services, if they're smart, across different company bases so that they can maximize their value and lessen the impact that I think is going to happen with AI, the other digital things that are disrupting, whether it's robotics or automation or what have you, because having been around these boards of public companies, they're constantly wanting to reduce costs. And the biggest cost that you have in most businesses is your people. So if they can replace you, what I found is no matter what they say, they're going to try to. So the more indispensable you can make yourself and be a free agent across the board, that's where I personally think things are going to go in the future. I'm interested to hear your thoughts on that.
I completely agree. I think you're going to see that, especially with highly skilled workers that are specialists in niche areas. Where I don't think you see as much flexibility or ability to do that is at the frontline level, people who don't necessarily service workers, people who don't necessarily have deep education or expertise in a particular area. And I fear for what will happen with that group of people, those group of workers. They are feeling the pain right now, and I think that pain will increase. And I think there is a real risk of a revolution. And that can take many forms, right? I don't necessarily mean a Bastille Day revolution. It could be just a general strike, a nationwide general strike where the people finally show up in a cohesive way and say, we will not stand for this. And so that balance of what works for employees and what works for employers needs to be struck. That is the long-term play for any CEO, is figuring out what is the best way to make sure that everyone's winning, because there can only be so much taking from that frontline workforce before something breaks. And I think that that's already happening. You're already seeing it in the form of increased anti-work sentiment, increased noise on social media. Also, the multi-directional nature of information sharing has totally changed the game. People are quitting live streaming, they're quitting on social media. Your brand and your culture are now one and the same. You can't have a positive brand with a negative culture because you will be exposed. There's anonymous boards like Blind and Glassdoor where people are posting the truth. And so many times in history, leaders have leaned on the corporate communications narrative that they can construct, and those corporate comms talking points have been very scrubbed for a long time, and that worked for a while, but they're not working anymore because people see the truth. They know what's going on even though the CEO releases some statement, and that isn't working anymore. They're losing the power of the narrative and controlling the story, and so authenticity is more important than ever before. And we have to care. Care is the place where profit and people both win. That is the place. My TED Talk is called How to Get People to Give a Hoot, although I don't say the word hoot, I say another word that starts with S. And that is because that's where both companies and employees win. Because if you talk to any CEO today and say, how much would you pay to get everyone on your team to deeply care about the results you're trying to achieve? They would pay a lot of money for that because they know the impact it would have on their business results. And if you ask any employee what was the best job you ever had, they will say it was one where they really cared about the work that they were doing. So it's a win. It's what CEOs want, it's what employees want. We all want people to care about the job they're doing. And if we can figure out the secret sauce to doing that, it is a win where there isn't some big self destruction at the end of the storyline. That's where we need to be focusing our attention right now.
You and I are so aligned on that one.